a village on the continent of Africa, that when somebody did something very hurtful, or very damaging, everything would stop. All activity, all work would stop. And everybody in the village would create this huge circle. And the person that was accused would be put in the middle. And then one by one by one by one, each person in the circle, young people, little people, teenagers, adults, elders, would say something they knew and remembered that was good and positive about that person from their childhood, from when they were a baby, what it was like when they were born, what kind of baby they were, what kind of child they were, what they did, could jump really high, could really work with stones, anything good. And it took hours and sometimes days, because there would be long recounting, retelling of these anecdotes. And then by the end, there'd be a great big feast, and the person was sort of welcomed back. It was like an automatic forgiveness of that person. And it was also like a circle of mirrors, reflecting back to that person who he really is. That he's not this action. This is who he is, and this is who we know. So I remember when I read that, I thought, whoa, how powerful is that? How deeply spiritual is that? How in heaven's name could we ever do something like that in a country like America, where we are so much about punishment. We are so much about revenge. Our books, our stories, our television shows, our movies are all about revenge. It's glamorized now. And now we even have a billion-dollar industry based on punishment, the prison system. So it's just punishment, punishment, punishment. Rehabilitation has been out of the window. Healing is not even thought of. So I thought, how could we get that here in America? And I said, well, maybe we could start with the little children, and then they could grow up. We could grow a whole generation of people who think in terms of healing rather than punishment. So I was on a train going to Rhode Island, and this poem came through, a story poem, and I just wrote it, and I was just writing it and writing it. When I got to Rhode Island, I was showing it to my friend, and she said, this needs to be a book. So I said, okay, that's nice, that's what friends say, you know. And then I showed it to somebody, and then I showed it to somebody else who I really didn't know, and she read it, and she said, oh, this should be a book. So when I got back to Baltimore, it was like, well, all right, if it's going to be a book, it needs illustrations. Who do I even, do you know any illustrators? You know plenty of artists, but you don't know book illustrators. And then I remembered an article that had been written, that I had written, that somebody got an illustrator to illustrate for Urbanite magazine. Found that name, Googled him or found him on Facebook or whatever it is, wrote to him, told him what I was doing. He said, send it to him. I sent it to him. It resonated, and he sent me back the most marvelous illustrations that really in detail gave the images of what I was talking about. We have never met, we have never even talked on the phone. Our whole connection in the last 3 years has just been by internet. And so last October, the book was finally published. And now I go to schools and present it mainly to staff and faculty, because it's for them to do it, to offer it to the children. Written by me, illustrated by John Malloy, taking it to schools. And if you allow me, I would like to present it. Michael Jose Jamal was bigger than most of the boys. He was taller than his dad. He always seemed mad, and he liked making whole lots of noise. He loved his grandmother, who had moved far away. He had a little sister, but she died one day. His mother was sad and got very sick. His father was around, but they just didn't click. He stayed to himself almost all of the time, and he knew only one way to get $1 or a dime. Looking mean, he would say, "Give me what you got. Give it to me now. I'll hurt you a lot." One day, he was eating some candy he took. His teacher came over and gave him a book. It had stories and paintings and a whole lot more. He never got a present this special before. The big boy looked up, but didn't know what to say. The teacher just smiled and went on his way. The children all saw this, but couldn't understand why. Why someone who scared them would sit there and cry. Michael Jose Jamal was bigger than most of the boys. He always seemed mad, but he was just feeling bad. So he cried out with all of that noise. In the classroom, the teacher made a circle of chairs. The big boy in the middle had to face all their stares. Each child in the circle had to say something they knew, something good about the boy, something positive and true. "He can reach the top shelf. I wish I was that tall. He caught a little kid when he started to fall. When he took things from me, he never hurt me one time. He seems scary and rough, but that's not a crime." Michael Jose Jamal sat and heard all that they had to say. At first looking down and wearing a frown, he wished he had stayed home that day. But he was surprised to find out they didn't hate him at all, just scared what he might do when he came down the hall. He could not imagine they saw anything good. He was considered a bully in his neighborhood. When they all finished saying the things they had to say, the big boy's mean look started to melt away. He told them about his mom, grandmother, and dad, how he sure missed his sister, how that made him feel bad. As he told his whole story, it made some children cry. They had sad stories too, so they could understand why. Why when you are hurting, with no one to talk to, you can find mean, ugly things to say and to do. What the boy and his classmates learned on that day came from a teacher who went out of his way. He made friends with someone that no one thought well of, and he showed all the children how to send them some love. We all must remember, because this is so true, when someone hurts others, he's hurting too. And if a person is hurting, we must think with our heart. To send them some love is a good place to start. So, for a classroom, or a family, or a village to win, we can circle that person's heart and help it to mend. Michael Jose Jamal is still bigger than most of the boys. But with the new friends he had, he could not stay sad. So he stopped making all that noise. Send somebody some love. Right now, in every class that I teach, whether it's little children or big children or adults, we get to pass around the bell of love. And when the bell comes to you, you open your heart and you send love. You tell us where you want to send love, to anybody, to any place, to anything that's important to you. And then you ring the bell and pass it to the next person. I send love to Christopher, Elisef, and all the people to whom all of this is dedicated. I send love to all the families who are related to all the people that this is dedicated to. I send love around the world to everybody who's trying to do something good.
I send love to Serafina, Elisif, Nicolette, Sophia, Kayla.
I send love to my brothers that I wish I could see more often.
It'll ring better if you hold your hand flat and put the bell on top. No, no, no.